Hello, everybody! Welcome! Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful, unseasonably delicious night. Woo! If you don't know me, I'm Azure Anderson, and I've been tasked with the lovely job of introducing our storyteller tonight. So here goes. Satish Jayaraj, aka SP Jayaraj, is an author, a podcaster, and a creative life coach. He is the co-host of the hit podcast, Not Your Mother's Mahabharata, where he tells the story of the Indian epic casually and comically, with me, of course. He is also the author of 2 fantasy books, The Secret of the Zapata Dragons and Legacy of the Crow, and the non-fiction self-help book, The Spider as Hero, a book on which we can learn from the spiders of myth. Everything Satish does is part of his love of stories, especially the ancient ones that have so much to teach us today. He is proud to bring you the story of Drona from the Indian epic, the Mahabharata. Please welcome Satish Jayaraj to the stage. Woo!
Thank you, everyone. Cheers to everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you to my lovely wife, Azure. I'm here to tell you guys the story of Drona. One of the key teachers and gurus of the Mahabharata, has been extremely influential on some of the main characters. And as with a lot of these stories and a lot of these characters, it begins not with Drona, but with his father. Jayaraj was laying back in his hut with the biggest grin on his face that he has ever had. Probably the biggest grin that any man has ever had in existence. He's recalling back, when was the last time? It was more than 500 years ago. 500 years ago, Jayaraj dedicated himself to being a sage, which meant devoting himself so completely to learning the books of wisdom, the Vedas, to learning about life, to meditations, to learning so much and making himself such a perfect human being that sex was simply off the table. He hadn't even thought about it in these past 500 years. It took him a while to even recollect again. How long ago was it? But yet here he is, laying down on the floor, big grin on his face. He wasn't even exactly sure what happened, but the earthen spirit was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. It lasted weeks, and he doesn't even know what exactly happened, but every single part of his body, his physical body, the outside, the inside, was stimulated, resulting in him giving up his seed. After 500 years, it was a powerful, powerful seed. And somehow, by ways even he doesn't know because he was in the throes, it all landed up in a pot, also known as a Drona. Jayaraj finally stood up. The spirit, of course, had left a long time ago. And he sees the pot and examines it. Sure enough, as he'd imagined it, there was his seed. And in this Drona, this pot, was everything that was needed for life. Somehow, the seed was managing to build upon itself. Life wanted to happen. And he knew then that this child, his son, he would name Drona after the container itself. inside the pot, it started to happen, an action, a microscopic action that built and built, working on habit, somehow connected to everything on the universe. And as cells developed because of this habit, more cells around it became stronger. More cells started to develop, a heartbeat, and over time, a life. And Bharjawan wondered if it was this act in itself, the act of his child coming to life by, in many ways, it's his own power of thought that would define him and make him one of the most pivotal figures in the entire epic that would be the Mahabharata. When Drona came from the pot, also called Drona, it was clear that he would also be a sage like his father. And Bharjawan taught him, trained him in everything that he knew. And the child, even when young, took to it so quickly. Bharjawan knew that his son would become a great and powerful sage. But what he didn't expect at the time was that his son would even outdo him. But he could see it happening here as he taught his son, and his son Drona would learn so well and practice and know instinctually the power of habit, the power of continuing to do things over and over like clockwork. There came a time when Bharjawan was employed by a king. And so he took his son Drona to the kingdom. And Drona, living with his father as a sage with the simplest of things, learning how even then to survive on almost nothing through casting spells and through meditation and through perfecting his body. Suddenly Drona is thrust into this place, this kingdom, this wealth, where he sees more food than he has ever seen in his entire life on a single day. The conversations that happen then between father and son cement an understanding. For the father tells his son how we are Brahmanas. And so for us, we have everything that we need. Wealth is not something that is a necessity or a need and a desire for us. But we do have to be careful, because temptation for us is everywhere. And with who we are, with what we are becoming, it is important for us to stay true to ourselves. And Drona asks his father, with everything we are learning, with all the magic ways, things that we are learning, with these ideas that we can bring great power upon ourselves and into our body, but also change who we are to become, in a sense, kind of perfect. Doesn't that mean that through our habits, through changing who we are, through consistency, that we can become whatever we like? And his father agrees and says, yes, indeed. But be wary, son. For when you stray too far away from who you are, there will be that part of you that is pure, that will strike back in some way, that will clash with the light that you have earned if it is not incongruent with who you are. So Drona takes this into mind, and also in this time is being taught with his friend, his new friend, the prince of this kingdom, Drupada. Father teaches Drona and Drupada, Brahmana and Kshatriya, warrior king, each one taking the lessons for what is intended to be for different purposes. And what Drona takes from this is love. For Drona and Drupada get along swimmingly. It is the closest friend that Drona feels he will ever have. And as they learn together, as they play together, as they talk together, the two get closer and closer. And at the age of 7, as Drona is talking about everything that he's seeing here, all the wealth that will be Drupada's one day, Drupada, young, lovely, friendly Drupada, promises his friend Drona, "Come to me when you are an adult, and I will give you half of everything that I have." And Drona is so moved by this, remembers it always. And as the two continue to learn together, continue to take actions together, continue to do habitual things together, this love that Drona has for his friend Drupada, because of Drupada's generosity, continues itself to build, continues to become more and more in love. The actions that he is taking, the meditations that he does, everything he does now, there is that thought that I have an amazing friend, a brother in ways closer. We are closer than even brothers are. And the idea that at some point Drupada will give him half the kingdom makes Drona the happiest boy on earth. As time goes by, and when Drona's father is employed elsewhere, the two go their separate ways. Drona, however, doesn't even feel the loss, because he's continuing with his practices, continuing to learn from his father, continuing to make habits happen, and continuing with all of this in the back of his mind, his love for Drupada, itself building and building and building. And Drona still, because of this promise, thinks about this. He knows what his father said. His father said, wealth such as this isn't really meant for us. There's a chance that it can even corrupt us, stop us from being who we are meant to be. But at least Drona has a little bit of peace, that if there comes a time when he does want wealth, all he has to do is go to speak to his friend, his childhood friend, and half a kingdom, an entire kingdom will be his. This brings Drona such comfort, such joy, and even such peace. Drona continues with his practices, and himself falls in love with the lady Kripi. Kripa and Kripi are twins who lived at the compounds of Hastinapur, one of the greatest kingdoms in the region. Now when Drona marries Kripa, he and Kripa live in these compounds in their hut, and he sees the future. He sees the children of Hastinapur, and they are mighty children indeed. He sees these children of the Kuru clan divided into 2 subclans. First is the Kauravas, 100 Kauravas, 100 children who are themselves the son of the mighty king Dhritarashtra, all of them born with super strength, significant of how much power is within them as well, what their potential is. And then the other 5, the Pandavas, each born to each with a different father, each father a different god. And central to them, the one who always catches Drona's eye, is Arjuna. All of these kids are actually learning from his brother-in-law how to be saint, learning all the lessons from his brother-in-law. And Drona, though he is not their teacher, sees them and sees potential. And in the 100 Kauravas, they're a rowdy bunch, not well behaved. And though Kripa teaches them some things, there's resistance just because they are not interested in some things. Do not see reason, rowdy kids being kids. And yet, Drona does wonder what would happen if they were to reach ever their potential. But that is not really his business at this moment. He himself has a son. Drona has a son, Ashwatthama, who he loves dearly. And he decides that just like his father taught him everything, he will teach Ashwatthama everything. He will teach him spells, he will teach him the Vedas, the books of wisdom. He will teach him how to meditate properly. He will teach him when to do each of these things, so that his son, like himself, will become the greatest. He sometimes does wish, though, that he had other students. Because when he realizes that as he teaches Ashwatthama, that part of the reason his own father taught him is because teaching these skills allows him to learn them better as well. But for a while, Drona is satisfied with his son. But what always nags at him is his poverty. He has learned all these amazing things. He learned from his father even the astras, magic spells that take the form of arrows, the ability to shoot fire or water or earth, to bring it out of nothing. Such powerful skills. And yet, he is still poor. He is still not wealthy. And though there is a little bit that nags on him, it only really bothers him one time. Ashwatthama, grown now to the age of 6, Ashwatthama, Drona sees him playing with these other children and realizes for a little while now, these kids have been laughing at his son. And his son, young and naive, has been clueless to it. And then there comes a point when the boys start talking about milk. And Ashwatthama has never had milk. They have been too poor to even have milk. And the boys ask Ashwatthama, you've never had milk? And poor boy doesn't even know what it is. The boys bring out some water, hide from Ashwatthama, and mix some flour into it and stir it around. And then they pass that to Ashwatthama. And in front of all the other boys, they hand it to him as milk. Ashwatthama takes it and drinks and is deliriously happy because he feels he is now wealthy enough that he has had something. He has had milk. And he comes home excited and happy. Mother, father, I've had milk. I have finally had milk. I didn't even know what it was. And Drona is done with being poor. Drona's done with poverty. This is too embarrassing. As Drona has learned all these skills and there's always been this little bit of frustration that he doesn't have everything that these kings have, there is rage in him. Powerful rage. But now, after seeing what has happened to his son, this huge embarrassment upon the son and his entire family, it's time. I'm going to go to Drupada in search of wealth. And so Drona goes to see his old friend. It's been decades now. Both Drupada's father has passed and Drona's father have passed. Drupada is now king. And Drona goes to the court to see Drupada. There's a couple of days in between where he is kept waiting, which does make Drona a little curious. But for whatever reason, he finally comes in to see the king. And Drupada embraces his old friend. Drona, it has been so many years. I have missed you. So much has happened. Why are you here? As he leaves the embrace and goes sits on his throne in front of the whole court. What brings you here, my old friend Drona? And Drona says, I have come to make good on the promise you made to me, to give me half the kingdom. And Drupada giggles. His court even giggles. And then he winks. Why did you come here really? And Drona, aghast, repeats himself. I came because of the promise you made to me, that you would give me half your wealth, that you would give me half the kingdom. And there's a silence from Drupada. You must be joking. You must be joking. Of course not. You made this promise to me. As children, we are the best of friends. Why would I give you half of the kingdom? You're a beggar. Why would I give you half of everything that is mine? Half of my responsibilities? Half my people? Half my cattle? Half the land? Why would I give any of this to you? Are you stupid? Are you an idiot? What is wrong with you? And the rest of the court, their moods changing from laughter to rage, and then also to laughter. And Drona humiliated by all of it, but yet still stands his ground, hoping still. Every day he thought that this was going to happen. Every day the habitual thought that my friend would give me this, over what has been at least 40 years, building and building and building. His true love for Drupada and gratitude now, just frozen. Drupada yells for him to get out of the court. You and I, you need to go. We are not friends. How could I be friends with you? I have a kingdom. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing to your name. Get out. Get out. Leave. Never come back. There is no connection here. And the guards come and they take Drona and they throw him out of the palace. They escort him out of the kingdom. Drona, heartbroken, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to feel, but it begins to change. All his love for Drupada changing now into hate. All that accumulated love changing into hate. Wealth. He came for wealth. He hears that the great sage and Kshatriya king, well not king, but the great sage and Brahmana, warrior Brahmana, Parashuram, one of the avatars of Vishnu, is giving away everything he owns. He thought about going to Parashuram first, but thought that this was a guarantee. Why take from the great sage Parashuram when I already promised half the kingdom? And so Drona goes as fast as he can to see Parashuram. By the time he gets to Parashuram, one of the greatest warriors, Parashuram has already given away all his wealth. But he's touched by this man who has come to him. I have nothing else to give. I can give you just my body or the astras that I know. My weapons of the mind. Which would you like? And the scheme begins at that moment for Drona to get the wealth that he wants and to get revenge. I will take the astras. And what would usually take years because of all the skills that Drona has learned, he learned the astras from Parashuram in months. Learned even the mighty and most powerful of weapons, the Brahmastra. A weapon that if not fired at a demon or a monster could destroy the very earth. Drona returns to Hastinapur, now with a new scheme in mind. Now with all his love turned into hate and still built into everything that he does, every habitual action. One day, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, out in the compounds, are playing a game where there are two sticks, and you have to you spin one shorter stick, and you smash it as hard as you can towards a goal. One of the Pandavas, the mightiest of them, has hit the stick, and Drona sees it come over him and fall into a well. And all 105 boys come to the well, figuring out, well, how can we get it back? They start talking to themselves. We can try and maybe tie a string together and lower it down, maybe catch it in a noose and then bring it up. One of us can go down the well and try and get it. And all 105 boys suddenly are chastised by Drona. You are Kshatriyas, are you not? You are warriors having learned great skills from Kripa. You can't figure out how to get a stick out of a well through your archery? His voice is fierce, his aura is fierce. And the boys rise to attention and come semi-surrounding him, wondering, who is this man? Arjuna specifically is drawn to Drona, comes and sees Drona as Drona is fiddling, Kshatriya as you call yourself. How could you not think there's such a simple thing? And the boys start to argue in spite of the fierceness of Drona. We are mighty Kshatriyas. We will be some of the greatest. We are being taught by Kripa. Our father is Dhritarashtra. We are strong and mighty. How dare you tell us these things? If you are so great, why don't you get it out of there with archery? That's when Arjuna notices that Drona has got beads of glass in his hand that he is rolling in his fingers. And as he continues to roll and twist and put them together, whispering mantras behind his breath, Drona pulls out an arrow made from these reeds. Drona then takes off a ring and tosses that into the well as well. With the arrow, he throws it with such speed into the well. The boys don't even notice that there is itself a string attached to it, also made out of the leaves. And when Drona pulls it out, it's there. The stick stuck into the point of the arrow. They watch as Drona then creates one more arrow and then flings it again into the well. They see it go down and then they see it come up, carrying Drona's ring. Immediately, the boys run off to see their great uncle Bhishma, the regent of the land, who has been looking for a new teacher for these boys, beyond Kripa, for Kripa has maxed out what he can teach them. Bhishma comes and speaks to Drona, asking him to be the new guru. Drona tells Bhishma his entire story, how he was born, his upbringing, his father, and then of course about Drupada, and how Drupada made a promise to him. And he agrees on a couple conditions. One, that he is paid very handsomely, securing for him some wealth. But that's not enough. There's a tradition for a guru to take something back from the students once they are taught. And Drona says, what he wants back, his guru dakshina, will be revenge. Revenge on Drupada for betraying him, his old friend. Bhishma was enamored by Drona's skills. so, once they are trained, yes, they will do what you ask. We'll make sure of it. So Drona becomes a teacher now to 106 kids. His own, the 100 Kauravas, and then the 5 Pandavas. Starts teaching them everything that he knows. Starts teaching them the astras, the weapons of fire and water and earth that can be summoned out of nothing. Starts teaching them all the Vedas, the books of wisdom, how to be a warrior, how to treat one's body like a temple, the effect of different things on the body and the mind, how to sync them all together, and when to do things at different times of the day so that everything is lined up for them to reach their maximum potential. Drona, though, as we have seen, is still human, and he wishes for his son Ashwatthama to be the best amongst all of them. So a system has come up. The boys need to connect their own pots of water, run to the river, and bring water back and fill up a tank. The tank, once the tank is full, then they can join Drona, and then Drona will begin his teaching immediately. If you don't come in time, you miss those first teachings. He gives his son the biggest pot, so that Ashwatthama only needs to travel 4 times from the river and back. And when Ashwatthama arrives, Drona begins his teaching. Then the other boys come in as they finished. Second is always Arjuna. Arjuna is determined to get everything from this guru. Arjuna is determined to be the finest Kshatriya, the finest warrior that the world has ever seen. And after a couple months, Arjuna shows up before Ashwatthama consistently. Drona doesn't question. He made an agreement. Once the first person comes, he will begin teaching. And he understands that Arjuna, of everybody, is wise enough, determined enough to use the astras. Arjuna has simply been using the Varunastra to put water into the tank directly, not even needing to go to the river and back. The determination of Arjuna impresses upon Drona. And he realizes that by teaching this student, not only is he himself mastering these astras, but he's also bringing everybody up as well. If Arjuna was not present, the other boys probably would not get as good an education, for he is bringing from them the best, out of them all the best. Arjuna soon starts to supersede even Ashwatthama with Ashwatthama's advantage. And Drona begins to love Arjuna for bringing out the best in himself, but for bringing out the best in him as a teacher as well. There comes a point when Drona realizing that Arjuna is taking over, starts to test him a little bit more. And even he's not clear, are these tests I'm giving him as a student because he can manage it, or am I looking for ways to slow him down? But Arjuna is not slowed down. Arjuna learns even at night on his own archery when all the other boys are done with the stringent plans. Arjuna continues to learn at night. And Drona instructs the cook to turn the lights off at a certain time, to put out the lamps and to not relight them. Arjuna comes back one day, the first day of this, starts eating and the lights go out. And he continues to eat. All the other boys have eaten and left. And Arjuna starts to realize he doesn't need to see to put food in his mouth. is this something he can bring into his archery? Arjuna, through all the teachings again, starts to really build upon it. He goes out immediately with his arrows and shoots targets without even looking at them. In this way again, Drona is impressed. Impressed with this magnificent boy and starts to love him more than Ashwatthama. There is, as this is going on, one day they go out, and again Drona is looking to see who is the best. He has had an assistant place a parrot, a wooden parrot, high in the highest tree, barely visible. He brings forth Yudhishthira, oldest of the Pandavas. You are to shoot one arrow alone. Tell me what you see. And Yudhishthira looks to the sight and says, I see the parrot. What else do you see? I see the trees. I see the sky. I see all that is there. And Drona says, step back. You will not hit the parrot. Duryodhana, rival to the Pandavas, excited to outdo Yudhishthira, goes even further. I see the parrot. I see the leaves. I see the trees. I see the branches. Step back. You will not hit this in one shot. One by one, all 100 of these boys and most of the Pandavas come forth, say what they see, and are sent back. They try to figure out the riddle. If this isn't the right answer, if that isn't the right answer, I'm going to say this. Not really thinking instinctually what they would do. He brings forth his son, Ashwatthama, second to last. What do you see? I see the eye of the parrot. Drona doesn't give anything away, but feels a sense of pride. But as with all the other boys, what else do you see? I see the parrot itself. Step back. You will also not hit the parrot. Arjuna, what do you see? Working on gut instinct alone. I see the eye of the parrot. What else do you see? I see nothing else. I see only the eye of the parrot. Drona says, shoot. And Arjuna, perfect focus, shoots his arrow straight through the eye of the wooden parrot. Here is the lesson for you to know. When you want something, when you have a target, focus only on that. Never mind anything else at all. For within you, within your connection to the universe, within your instincts, your intuition, everything will conspire. All parts of you will conspire towards that one thing that you are focused on. So focus only on that and on nothing else. Everything else will come into play. Believe in yourself, in your practices, and in the universe. At this point, Drona tells Arjuna, I will make you the greatest archer ever to exist. A promise that will affect stories for years, decades, centuries to come. But not long after the promise is made, Drona, sitting in his hut, hears a whole commotion behind him, outside rather, and Arjuna storms in, crying. You promised me that you would make me the greatest archer. You promised me you would make me the greatest warrior. You promised me, Drona. The other boys follow suit inside. Clearly something has happened. Something that they have seen, and Drona has no idea. What are you talking about? I have seen your secret student. I have seen the secret you've kept. I have seen him. He is so much more. You taught him so much more than me. You promised me you would make me the greatest warrior. And Drona doesn't know who he's talking about. At this point, many other people have come to him to be a teacher. And Drona has accepted them as long as they came from the Kshatriya class. There were two that he didn't accept. One was a charioteer, and one was a boy from the forest people, the Nishadas. And he said no to them both. So who is Arjuna talking about? Just me and Arjuna are going to go and see who this person is. And so Drona and Arjuna go to the forest exactly where the boys just were. And they see this child, 3 years younger to Arjuna, 13 years. And as they come in, they see him. The boy takes an arrow, shoots it. It twirls around, catching 4 birds and landing right before the boy. These are skills Arjuna is not even capable of. And the reason they knew about this boy was because one of their pet dogs had 7 arrows shot at its mouth in a way that it intersected to keep it open. Apparently, this boy, Ekalavya, found the dog barking too noisy. So he shot the arrows to keep the dog's mouth open. And that was when they saw Arjuna might be able to have done the same thing, but he would fire maybe 5 arrows. This was 8. The kid is just naturally talented, it seems. But when he sees Drona, he comes running to him, bends down and touches his feet, puts his hands together, and says, "Thank you to his guru." Arjuna starts to fume and gets so upset, but Drona's still confused. "I have not taught you. Who are you?" Some years ago, this child had come to Drona and asked him to teach. This was the child from the woods who had come. And Drona had said no. He felt there was great skill in this child, but he had agreed to train only Kshatriyas. And this boy was from the forest and from the woods. And so this young wild boy, before leaving, said, "Can you bless me?" And Drona gave him a blessing. Just a blessing. Ekalavya grabbed Drona's hand, the child that he is, and leads him deeper into the forest. And Drona sees something that just astounds him. The boy, after receiving that blessing, gathered together mud, gathered together leaves, and artfully designed a Drona out of mud. Just a sitting, lifeless statue. The boy had been so meticulous in even making Drona's fierce eyes as perfect as could be. He used animal entrails, used blood, used everything he could find to bind this thing. And it was a little worn from time, but it was clear that he had done this years ago. And somehow, the boy prayed and got guidance from the statue. Drona was amazed that this child had such natural ability that he could do this for himself, that there was so much within him that he was able to call through this false idol of Drona himself. And Drona thought to himself, he actually found himself caring for this boy as well. How could he not care for this child who had done so many things, who in many ways had so much promise? And there were 2 things at work. He had promised Arjuna that he would make Arjuna the greatest archer. And what is not spoken of as well, Drona was also concerned. The boy had so much natural talent, so much raw power, and had done so much, but he was completely without discipline. And although he was clearly a more gifted archer than Arjuna was, without that discipline, without that guidance, where would it lead him? What dangers would it lead him to? What dangers would it lead to everyone around him and the kingdom and the people? To have no connection to Dharma, to goodness at all, just the skill, wild skill. And so Drona made a decision in both these interests. I am your guru, am I not? And young, sweet, wild Ekalavya said, of course, you are my guru. Then you owe me a dakshina. You owe me something for my teachings. And Ekalavya was excited. Yes, ask me anything, Guru. Ask me anything, I will give it to you. And Drona asks, give me your right thumb. And the boy, with an arrow in his hand, slices off his thumb and hands it to Drona. And Arjuna and Drona leave. The boy still practices archery, but now simply will never have a chance of being as good as Arjuna is. So far, the promise is still there, but also this idea is still in the back of Drona's mind. Revenge. The whole reason he's here, the whole reason he's doing this, training these great, almost supernatural boys in these arts, revenge. And he's bathing one time with the students around him. All of a sudden, a crocodile, a demonic crocodile comes and is about to chop down Drona's leg. And Drona, his weapons far away from him, in that half-second, millisecond, surrenders to his death. And yet, as the teeth clasp down on his thigh, they relax. And the crocodile, the demonic crocodile, is dead. With 3 hours in its eyes and another in its heart. And he sees that being, second youngest of the Pandavas, equal in strength to the mighty Duryodhana, has been pushed aside by his brother Arjuna. Arjuna, without thinking, pushes beam aside, fires the arrows straight at the crocodile's eye with barely a thought. And as Drona looks at Arjuna, gratified to be alive, the boy is calm. The boy is serene. And Drona knows immediately that this boy will be greater than he. He calls him to him. And he teaches to him, hands him the powerful great weapon that was given to him by Parashuram, the Brahmastra, the powerful arrow that should only be used on demons. If it were to miss or hit anyone else, it would cause damage across the entire world. But in this moment, Drona saw that Arjuna has the temperament and deserves to be the owner of the Brahmastra. Now, it is time for revenge. The boys are now almost fully trained. One last trial awaits them, and that is Drona's Guru Dakshina. With permission from the regent, from Bhishma, the boys, powerful supernatural boys, now having received all of Drona's training, attack Drupada's kingdom of Panchara. Drupada is a mighty warrior, a mighty king, having learned from Drona's own father and mastered the Astras himself. The 100 Kauravas charge at Drupada, charge through the kingdom, killing hundreds of his soldiers. But Drupada manages to fight all of them, shooting his arrows with such speed at their chariots, at their drivers, until the Kauravas, the 100 Kauravas, run back. But at least now, the mighty Drupada has exerted some energy. 4 of the Pandavas, they ask that Yudhishthira remain behind, for he is to be the regent, the next king, and not to endanger himself. 1 chariot, the mighty being in front of it, leading the charge like a bull. Arjuna in the chariot himself firing his arrows savagely. And the 2 youngest Pandavas, twins in fact, on either side, battering arrows that are coming at them. It is a fierce, fierce battle. Arjuna gets off the chariot, manages to make his way, shooting arrow for arrow, shaft for shaft at Drupada to his chariot, and brings his sword towards Drupada's neck. As ordered by their master, brings Drupada back. Drupada sees kneeling now himself, Drona in front of him. Part of him realizing, of course it would be him. Why else would these boys come after me? Of course it would be him. Drupada standing before him. Drona standing before Drupada. My soldier, my students, claim half your kingdom. And they have given that half of the kingdom to me. Now, we own equal parts. You have a Panchala, I have a Panchala. Now we are equals. Now, is it good for us to be friends again? For there is still that part in Drona that misses that friendship. Drupada outwardly agrees. Says, of course, I am sorry, Drona. I'm sorry for those things I said. I'm sorry for not keeping to my promise that I made when we were young boys. Drona sends Drupada away. The palace where they fought now belongs to Drona. He sends Drupada to the other half of the kingdom. His revenge complete. Pandavas, of course, the Pandavas and the Kauravas are now nearing the end of their training. And Drona sits with them, thinking to himself, thinking about his life, thinking about what his father taught him, thinking about this friendship, and thinking about who he is and what he has done. Because he knows to some extent they were children when the promise was made. One was a king, a prince. They were children. What boys haven't made promises that they haven't meant to keep? And to promise half an entire nation, there's an element that Drona knows. And he looks at his boys that he has trained, and he loves them. Through this teaching, he loves all of them. Through what they have done for him, he is proud. And he thinks of the Pandavas specifically, of how their nature has always been good. And how in the lessons he teaches, one of the important lessons is Dharma. One of the important lessons is being good, of fighting for the weak. And he wonders to himself, what will happen if I fall into adharma? What if I fall into evil? What will happen then? And he doesn't trust himself in the future after this. He calls Arjuna to him, just Arjuna. But the other boys, upon seeing this, come to him too. And Drona says to Arjuna, Your teaching is done. All of your teaching is now done. And you have given me my Guru Dakshina of this half kingdom. But Arjuna, I gave you the promised throne, the most powerful weapon in the universe. So you owe me an additional Dakshina. And Arjuna says, of course, what can I give you? So willing he is, so loyal to Drona, which in this moment is the problem. And he makes him promise. First you will promise that you will give me this, that you will agree to this, then I will tell you what it is. And all of you others are witness to this. And Arjuna agrees. Drona makes sure twice, whatever I ask you now, you will agree and say yes. You have all seen this. You've all heard him promise this alone. And Arjuna says, yes, you are my guru. What can I do for you, mighty Dronacharya? If ever the two of us meet in battle on opposite sides, you will not hold back, even if it means killing me. And Arjuna is hesitant, but the promise has been made, and he agrees that should the two meet in battle, Arjuna will not hold back, even if it means killing his guru. And Drona is able in some sense to relax, in some sense to not be as afraid that should he turn to evil, as he knows he already has given into anger before, that if he is ever on the wrong side, before he digs deeper and deeper into evil, into adharma, the one person who can stop him has agreed to do so. And in this, Dronacharya finds some